What job did you work at that was so bad, you quit on the same day you were hired? A vacuum cleaner sales job. They explained that I'd have to go to people's houses and offer to clean one room for them with the vacuum and I'd get paid if during my vacuum demo they bought a vacuum. Nah, I'm good. I like the vacuum though. An ex of mine worked for Kirby, if I recall correctly. He was expected to be in a person's house for 2 hours to sell them this goddamn vacuum. I wouldn't want a salesman in my house for 10 minutes. He lasted maybe a month, and then his paycheck bounced, which meant our rent check bounced. It was a mess, much like our relationship. Worked at a recycling plant for medical supplies. My job was to get inside the compressing machines and clean them. The machines were filled with blood needles and shoot. It was absolutely disgusting. Plus the place was infested with rats. When I was 16 I got a job at KFC. It was disgusting. The kitchen was dirty and people were rude af. They had me making the coleslaw. It came in separate bags. I eat cabbage in single huge bag, carrots, mayo. I was mixing it by hand and in a huge vat thing. Found a sea cockroach in there. Told the manager and he replied that it was normal. I quit then and there. Noped out to that place. Retrieving used form work. 10 guys throwing 20-kilogram pieces of nail-infested timber down from 5 floors up. My job was to dodge the falling bits of timber and avoid stepping on nails while I did it for 10 hours a day. FCK that. No first aid guy on site. Got a nail through each foot on my first day, which I disinfected, bandaged and went back to work. Got a job at a sawmill right out of high school. It was probably opened in the 40s. Dangerous as hell. First day one of the guys that worked there was bragging about how good the owner was to work for, held up his 2-fingered hand, touched the 2 nubs one at a time, and said I got $500 each when that happened. About an hour and I went to my car under the auspices of grabbing my thermos. Left and never went back. Some help desk job. Recruiter lied his ass off. You gotta be careful with them. I've been sent into some bogus interviews because a recruiter just wanted to meet his quota. Another tip an old guy told me was to always send your resume as PDF. Recruiters will tweak your resume without your asking, just to try and get you into an unqualified interview, and it'll set your ass up for failure. And always take a hard copy of your resume to the interview. I once had a recruiter helpfully add a bunch of Java experience to my resume. I hate Java. I was very confused when I realized I was being interviewed for a Java programmer position. At least the interviewer and I had a good laugh when we compared my resume to the one the recruiter sent. I applied for a call center in my local area. Interview went well. Hired on the spot and introduced to co-workers. Small rented space, less than 20 employees. Was left by manager to chat with future co-workers while I waited for my mom to pick me up. I was still 17 at the time, 3 months shy of 18 when one co-worker let slip some mumble about how he hopes this young girl doesn't leave like the rest. I couldn't get the guy's words out of my head, so when I got home I did some more research on this business and found out they'd been hiring for months and constantly losing people, but primarily hiring females who then left the company pretty quickly after. Found a forum of such employees talking about being sexually harassed while working there, how they never got paid what they were promised, etc. Just really shady things, but immediately after learning about the sexual harassment claims I called and said I would not be taking the position after all. They didn't even ask for a reason. I was 18 and it was as a waitress for a fancy retirement home where they made meals to order for the residents who all ate in a communal facility. Somehow we were responsible for knowing a person's dietary restrictions, but there was no list of people with dietary restrictions as it's protected health info. We were just supposed to figure it out. For example, if grandma was allergic to peanuts, forgot and ordered a dish with peanuts, we were held responsible. The men keep smacking my butt with their napkins and making inappropriate comments, which was fine with management because they were old/senile. My first shift was supposed to be covering breakfast/lunch 8 hours, but because so many people quit mid-shift it became a mandated double. I lasted 1 day. Of the 15 people I trained with, only one made it 2 weeks. That's not right, or legal I think, to withhold dietary restrictions of residents. I used to work in a retirement as a chef. Dining staff is considered a caregiver and allowed access to that information. The assisted living residents ate in a restaurant setting as well. Servers would take orders and ring it into a POS system. It had to be rung in under the resident's name because it would display their dietary restrictions. We also had a printed out list of residents with restrictions for quick reference. As the sous chef, I even had to update restrictions nurses made if the dietary technician wasn't there. We also had the right to downgrade their diet to softened foods or thickened drinks if we noticed them struggling to eat. Only the speech therapist and nutritionist could upgrade them to regular food. As a teen, I applied for a standard teenage summer job picking berries on a farm. Thought it'd be with other people, but turns out I was the only one hired, and half of the first 12-hour day was also construction / helping the farm renovate their barn. Not worth it for minimum wage. I tried being an ice cream man over a summer. 11-hour day, made around $80, and was considered a top seller. If that was the best, I didn't want to see the average day. My highlight was buying a kid ice cream. He started crying when he didn't have enough. I bought it for him instead. Away at college, needed a job. Got hired on at a national pizza chain, with a table involved. Anyway, show up the first day and quickly notice every single person working there is tweaking. Everyone. No way I was going to deal with a bunch of freaking tweakers, and quit after my first shift. Manager asked why, and I told him, because everyone here is tweaking. His response, how did you know? Maybe it was the dilated eyes. The fact everyone here is sweating like it's 113 degrees out, yet I need a long sleeve shirt to stay warm. I was working at a restaurant. 1. A coworker told me the boss asked him if he would sell him his passport. 2. Different coworker said the boss asked him to be a guarantor in a totally blank passport application. 3. Some customers came up to me to say they overheard some men on the patio talking about trafficking people. Like, in the way that they were discussing plans to do it. Unbeknownst to them, one of these men was the owner. Owner was from Albania by the way. Not trying to generalize, but they are known to be one of the human trafficking hotspots. I quit that day and called the RCMP. Sort of like Canada's FBIDIT, spelling add-on. I've actually never even seen taken. I didn't, but it was not uncommon at all to see new Amazon delivery drivers quit after 1-3 days. They picture it as driving and just sitting on there, but was my theory. Delivering 250 packages to 180 stops is hard work. Loading the van plus walking some stupid ass driveway / stairs with heavy packages plus traffic can be overwhelming. Not me, but my coworkers. When I was 19 I had a summer job doing quality inspection of wires on ceramic substrates. What that meant was you got to work, put on a clean room suit, went through the air bath, and into the clean tent. Clean tent was dark, not pitch black, but not light enough to read much. Long table in the middle with 2 stations either side. Sit on stool, retrieve the first tray of substrates. These were about the size of an old photo slide, about 2x2, but a little thicker. Place the first piece on the lighted microscope stand and inspect, scanning the entire piece as ear, hunched over the microscope, side to side, about 3 minutes per piece. Note inspection on sheet, reach for next piece. Repeat by the hundreds. Repeat on Tuesday, then Wednesday, etc etc. There were 2 of us that made it through the whole summer. Most of the other hires lasted 1 day or less. More than 1 hire left during the training session. When I was 14 I got a job at one of the few fast food places in town that hired kids under 16. I went to orientation, where they explained the positions different age groups could fill. My job would be to take people's orders out to their cars. I wasn't allowed to touch money or work the fryer. I showed up on the first day and was told my whole shift would be on the fryer. I told them I was 14 and not allowed to, plus I hadn't been trained on it. The guy basically said tough shoot and tried to hand me a hairnet. I just left. / day. I was 23, out of college with a business degree, and I had just done a year teaching English in Eastern Europe, and when I got back to the US, it was hard to find a job. 2008. My hometown is really small and there weren't many opportunities, so I was primarily applying in nearest big city. I was living with my parents and full-time job searching for about 4 months when I got a job at a translating company. It was billed as a project manager as most of their work was remote with translators working all over the world. For my first week the company put me up in an extended stay with the idea that it'd find something permanent while I was there onboarding. Cool. My first day on the job it became very clear that this global translating company was actually about 5 people and my position as project manager was actually receptionist. Seriously, the most exciting part of the day was walking across the building to pick up the mail. I went to the hotel every night and cried on the phone to my mom, both about the shooty job and also that I was so stressed about trying to find an apartment or room to rent in a week with a $26,000 salary. A mid-sized city in the Midwest during an economic downturn is a bleak place to be. My mom and dad told me that if it was truly that terrible and stressful, that I should quit, move back with them, and find something better. I did just that. I told my boss I'd finish out the week, and, as no one had even asked or attempted to start the hiring paperwork while I was there, also a huge red flag to me, I told them not to pay me and just cover the hotel. It's the only time I've ever quit a job without notice. A few months later I found a much better job in that same city. It didn't pay that much more, but was with a big local non-profit and the rest is history. Wendy's. I worked a lot of fast food when I was a teenager, but being corrected on the way I said mayonnaise was too much apparently. Mayo. We are weird when we're kids. A couple months ago I got a job working at this sales company. I was told that it was going to be pretty straightforward and I would be going to stores and selling them some phone stuff. I think I quit an hour into my training when I was told that morals have no place in sales and that I should say whatever I needed to in order to get our customers to sign their contracts. I have no issues with sales in general, but I like to think that my integrity is worth more than a shooty sales job. It was a brew house, code for independently owned Applebee's with more beer options, usually local. The cooks smoked on the line, trash was thrown on the floor ankle deep until the end of the night. The confetti in the ceiling light covers were bugs. The ceiling tiles were brown from having never been cleaned. The floor even with non-slip shoes felt like I was walking on ice from the oil and whatever else. The chimney of the fryer caught on fire, and I was told that happened every 2 to 3 days. I worked 4 hours, got my shift meal, told them I couldn't do it because I didn't want to be there the day they got a less lenient health inspector. Edit. Autocorrect errors. I got a job at a lockdown residential treatment center for kids with mental health issues. I thought it bombed the interview, but they hired me and I needed the work. I spent day 1 of training learning about state policies to ensure the safety of the residents and staff. Day 2 of training involved watching the other staff do their jobs. I quickly realized that none of the legal requirements we learned in day 1 were being applied on day 2, especially the student to staff ratios. Day 3 would have been my first official day of working with the kids, but I decided I didn't want to work at a place that wasn't following legal requirements. Turns out I made the right call when I heard about the place having a massive riot a few months later. The SWAT team was called in to fix the situation. I was in a seconded job, but was later offered another job by the CEO of the company I was seconded to. He tried to convince me to take the job without any contract or any assurance that the position was in any way secure once I assumed it, and then later, that they tried to withhold my salary after he heard rumors that I was resigning. I was thinking of resigning, but I hadn't made my intentions official yet, so I pleaded my case until they finally released my salary. An hour after withdrawing my salary, I submitted my resignation. Like 10 years ago, at a local downtown pizza place, I won't name names though as it's under new ownership and probably better by now. It's a pizza place downtown with a basement area that serves as a small concert venue. First day, getting shown the ropes and whatnot, learned a few unsettling things. First was that the owner has a hidden secret office upstairs above the cafe, where he watches and listens to the hidden cameras and microphones all over the place. This office also served as his cocaine/prostitute hangout room. Then they showed me a storage area in the back that was freaking filthy and explained that when the health inspector shows up they move some equipment back there and take the door knob off so it can't be accessed. The place was generally disgusting and poorly maintained overall. What finally made me just say frick it was when the first pizza I ever made was very slightly overcooked and the owner let me know that the retail cost of that pizza, along with anything else I messed up, would be deducted from my minimum wage paycheck. Nope the frick out of there after 3 hours. McDonald's when I was 16. Thrown straight into work the grill during a very busy lunchtime. Kept getting shouted at because I was making mistakes. Then after they gave me a brush that was the size of a toothbrush and told me to clean the grill, I just went in the back, picked up my bag and went home. Trash crew at a fair. It was absolutely disgusting and filled me with a new hatred for people who don't know how to use a trash bag. I got hired as a waitress at a country club. There was a long list of reasons I quit on day 1. 1. They told me I'd have 40 hours a week which I did, but they failed to inform me that every day was a split shift, so the schedule was 10 AM to 2 PM then 5 PM to 9 PM every day too. The waitresses were expected to carry all the meals out for a table at one time. We couldn't make more than one trip. So if we had a table of 15 people we were expected to stack 15 plates on a tray and carry it out all at once. 3. We were expected to wear heels at all times. The kitchen was upstairs and the dining area was downstairs. So they wanted us to walk up and down stairs carrying trays full of food in heels. And the last reason was that they expected us to have the menu completely memorized within a week of starting. It was a 7-page menu that was changed out every 3 or 4 months. Wasn't the same day. Took me about 2 weeks I think. I was a teenager working for Stewart's in New York. The manager there was nuts. Always treated me like garbage. Called me retarded on a regular basis. Are you retarded? Refused to train me on the register because we need a guy to do the stocking and women on the registers. I knew I wasn't going to last long when I went in the back cooler and it was a disaster. She told me to clean it up and organize it. So I did. She came to check on it and decided to knock over a whole stack of milk and eggs and told me to fix it and do it again. Last I heard she had gotten demoted and is no longer a manager, but still an employee. I was hired as a GM for a Popeyes in my local area. We were going over the food safety procedures, which included handwritten tags on the open chicken in the refrigerator. The open time allowed was 48 hours, and was instructed to retag them for a further 48 hours. When the tags expired, instead of disposing of the chick then, was told if the food safety officer showed up and actually tested the chicken, it would be the manager in charge that would be held accountable. 2 hours into my first day, I noped right out there. I worked at Hallmark for a few hours once. The manager kept on visibly panicking every time I made a small mistake with something, and it made me feel so freaking uncomfortable I walked out. Decades ago I got work as an office assistant for a small garbage P/U company. The office was in the owner's kitchen, where the wife ran the admin stuff. I started taking calls, and many were complaints about recycling. The company charged extra for recycle service, but they put it all in the trash. We were told to lie to them. The wife owner also ran a daycare out of her living room. I worked for them for 2 or 3 days, and never once saw anybody tend to those kids. She used a baby gate to separate the kitchen from the living room, and I still remember seeing those babies crying while they stood there in saggy diapers. Stood at stack of //20 unfinished doors, lifted the top one 1 inch and slid it forward 3 inches so another guy could grab and feed it into a machine which trimmed the sides. When all doors were cleared, I rolled along another stack and started again. Repeat for about 5 hours in deafening noise. First day, last day. I started working at a Greek restaurant. First day, got locked in the walk-in freezer by some co-workers. Got food thrown in my face. The owner threw plates at me and my co-workers for making an order wrong, and I had to work from 5 PM till 3 AM without breaks, even though I was 15 at the time. I wanted to quit, but I couldn't, since it was my college internship. I was a computer science student back in 2004 and interned at this web development company back in the Philippines. First task they gave me was help my mentor with his job creating an online shopping experience for a client. My job was to take an entire catalog and type it word for word into a text file so he could copy and paste it into the pages he was creating. To this day, the most mind-numbing experience I've had. Telemarketing for end-of-term life insurance. Basically an auto dealer would patch you through to some poor old bastard in a nursing home, and you'd have to read them a disgusting script about how their families would be so much better off when they die if they just paid an additional $21.99 a month. When lunch came around, I told the owner to have a nice life and didn't come back. Cleaned houses in college. Would put out my flyer in nice neighborhoods to get work. A lady called me and said she didn't need a maid, but her daughter did. So I followed her out to the country where her daughter lived, and when I walked in I saw my first hoarder house. The whole family of 4 was living in filth. I turned around and left. They actually thought that I would clean it before they got home from work. It would have taken weeks working full time. Big nope. I did feel sorry for the mother though. She stayed to try and clean it